So I'm going to be making a uncharacteristically free-flowing video, a little bit less structured than my usual topics because I kind of want to take you through a story of my last 48 hours. So my last Laurel Luke was on the subject of avoidance and manifestation. It was prompted by my avoiding unpacking my suitcase after I got back from vacation. If you saw it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And it made me realize that, part of my obsession with traveling is that I am not at home. I am not facing the mundane tasks that I have to deal with, the things in my home, the errands, the appointments, these daily practical things that are not really my cup of tea. I am someone that would spend all of my life being creative and never having to do the dishes, or go to make a doctor's appointment, things like that. So I realized that I can't blame the stresses of my homecoming on, having to do my job because I love doing my job, on not, being happy with where I live because I love my home. I mean, look at this beautiful rooftop terrace that we created this summer, over the years that we finalized this summer. So I think part of the stress of returning home from travel for me is this pileup of things that I tend to want to avoid. I have a more pragmatic and mundane nature. So the other day I kept on that theme of avoidance and I posted a challenge. I said, let's play a game and start the day with the task that we're avoiding the most. So the first thing on the list for me when I woke up and played that game was my phone. Since Sunday night, the cellular data wasn't working on it, and I just kind of kept brushing it under the rug and saying, you know what, I'm sure it's a network issue, it's going to come back on its own. Well, lo and behold, it did not. And I'm usually lucky. I don't usually have to deal with a lot of technical support. I'm technologically savvy. I spend my life avoiding having to make errands or appointments, and I could not avoid it any longer. So I went to Bell, I went to the Apple store, and to save you a long story of boring details, ended up being a bigger deal than I thought. I ended up having to spend 2 days on this phone issue. Now, it was not fun to deal with people in the stores or on the phone for hours, or having someone walk you through something when it's not the problem. But I got extremely lucky, and it was very necessary that I had done it in such a timely manner. Basically, I ended up actually saving $1,200 by having addressed it when I did, and by listening to my guidance team before every conversation I had with the technician, and really listening to the signs of, how I was being supported, where I was being led. They ended up making an exception on my 1-year warranty, and I was able to get the cost of repair covered. I was able to get a new phone, which means that I can trade this phone in for a brand new one at the end of my installment plan next year, which I would not have been able to do because the other one had a little damage from having dropped it in between cases. So anyway, those are the boring details, but in the end, I actually won out pretty big by dealing with the thing I was avoiding. And yes, it did cost me 2 days of some mild annoyance, but it also felt really empowering to move through it. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is that it's created this incredible unblocking of energy. So while I was in the situation, on the phone, being on hold, realizing my warranty had finished 10 days ago, dealing with the moment-to-moment frustrations, I was also realizing the stress that comes with disorder. And this is something I know about myself. I think I'm like a neat person trapped in a messy person's body. I feel so happy in ordered environments, but it doesn't necessarily come naturally to me. And so I started to put things in order because I had to through this phone situation. So I was putting things in order digitally, but then as I put things in order digitally, I started to feel like, well, I'm not in order. And so then I got into the shower and I took longer. I took care of myself. I took care of my body in different ways. And then as I was getting out of the shower, I was like, well, my hair, it's feeling tangled at the ends. It's like I'm feeling split ends. So then I started to trim all the dead ends away from my hair, and I hadn't felt my fingers being able to go through my hair so smoothly and so long. And after I cut my hair, I realized, well, the bathroom, like I don't usually clean the bathroom after a shower, and it wouldn't take that long. And then I started to clean the bathroom after the shower, and it was just like, it was like a drain being unclogged. And that's the metaphor I usually use for morning pages. It's like we're unclogging our soul's drain. But it was like the more I picked away at the things that I typically avoid, energy kept unblocking and unblocking, and I was feeling lighter and I was feeling more put together. And for someone who's like a little OCD or a neat freak, like I would probably give them the opposite of advice, like let things go, and you don't have to take care of everything at once. But for me, as I started to deal with these tasks that I typically avoid, other things started to come to the surface too. I had a hard discussion with someone that I'm close to, and I really said a lot that needed to come out, and it felt really productive, and I felt really alive and light after. It was really palpable how much lighter I felt in my body from not carrying around these tasks or details or sentiments that I wasn't addressing because they didn't feel comfortable or convenient. So I'm sharing that because we hear a lot in spirituality about being lit up and doing what you want and what feels good and what you desire. And yes, in some way I think that does get you where you need to go. I love creating content for Tour de Soul for all of you, and it's by my creating content the other day, by talking about avoidance, and then by making a post about this avoidance challenge where we do those tasks first. It's through my joy of sharing content that I actually had this growth experience, by applying my own advice and sharing it with the community and having dialogue with all of you who were going through something similar and related to it. But I also experienced the same amount of exhilaration by doing something that did not come naturally, that is not comfortable for me, and that actually left me feeling so empowered, alive, and really, invigorated. So I'd be really curious if you could share with me a story of how you have moved through something that you've been avoiding. Did it cause a chain reaction? Did it bring things up for you emotionally? Did you realize that it was actually causing you more stress than you thought possible? I know what those things are that remain for me, like there's a pile on my desk that I'm avoiding, and I know that as soon as I do it, it'll be much easier than I thought. But it's actually quite exciting to move through that discomfort and to realize that you're stronger than you think, you're more flexible and adaptable than you think. And to me, whenever I stretch what I think I'm capable of in that way, it's like my sense of self becomes more expansive, more porous, and I'm no longer the person that doesn't like to do these things. I'm the person that absolutely can do these things and may even be pretty good at it. So if you've heard me talk about the Divine Guidance Team, the Spirit Guidance Team, call on your guides and angels and whatever you use as your guidance team, your well and healed ancestors. Call on them for support and advice as you move through each stage. What should I start with? What should I do next? What should I keep in mind during this conversation? It does help to move through discomfort, but it's a very interesting idea to start, at least for one day, with the task that you're most avoiding and see what happens. Let me know.